Places, ready in 5. Rehearsals for the new Hanover Theater season are underway, and the program has a new professor. Hanover's newest addition to the theater department stops by to discuss her background, Samuel Becket, and more. Last winter, Hanover Theater suffered a terrible fire. Now they are rising from the ashes with a brand new stage. Welcome to In the Studio, where each episode we learn more about student activities, organizations, and individuals here at Hanover College. I'm your host, Katy Dudzik. Today we're talking with Hanover College's newest professor of theater, Jennifer Schmidt. She's just started her first year here at Hanover College, and she's teaching a full roster of classes. She's held auditions for her fall production of 3 short plays by Samuel Becket as well. Welcome to In the Studio, Professor, or should I say, Dr. Schmidt.
Thanks, it's great to be here.
So, Professor, we're pretty tight-knit here at Hanover College. Students and faculty like to get to know each other a lot. And could you tell us a bit about your background, like where you're from, how you kind of got into theater and all that?
Yes, absolutely. I am from Minnesota originally. I grew up in southeastern Minnesota, and I've been doing performing arts for my whole life, basically. I took a lot of music classes and dance classes and did a lot of theater, mostly musicals, when I was a kid. And then I did more performing arts in college and ended up deciding to go to grad school in theater. And so I went to a dramaturgy and dramatic criticism program at the Yale School of Drama.
Did you always have an interest in theater growing up? Or was there like a particular encounter at school or in life you had with theater that made you think, yeah, I could do this for the rest of my life?
I had this sort of initial bug for acting that I think a lot of people get. I was an orphan in Oliver when I was pretty little and then enjoyed performing. But I also love reading. I was an English major in college, so I found ways to combine both my interests for sort of literary study and also theater in my program. Yeah, and found ways, and I think I'm excited to be here at Hanover because as a professor here in the department, I'll be able to do multiple things like direct and then also teach courses and theater history and dramatic literature and all of those things. So.
Okay, great. Yeah. So I understand, as you said, you went to Yale and you got your degree in dramaturgy there.
That's correct.
Can you explain for the folks at home what dramaturgy is exactly?
Sure, yeah. It's not a thing that most people know, even some people in the theater, so I'd be happy to. It's, a dramaturg can actually take on a number of roles in a production, but you can generally think about it as, my professor in grad school liked to describe it as being an in-house critic. So not that you're there to criticize the production necessarily in a negative way, but you're there to be an outside perspective on a production, maybe as you can think of it as an editor would work with a writer. That's sort of how a dramaturg would work on a production with the other members of the team, like the director or the playwright if it's a new play.
So you're kind of like the main researcher. You
Yes.
kind of help the director plan out steps in the directing process, basically?
Yes, that's part of it, and research is also a big component of it too. And you're also there a lot of times if you're working on more classic texts like Shakespeare, you're there to sort of shepherd the text and make sure that everyone knows what they're saying and all of those kind of things.
Yeah. Which can be hard, especially with Shakespeare.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so here we have a picture from your work in dramaturgy for the play Rosencrantz and Guildenstern. Could you tell us about your work on that?
Sure. So that was a summer internship that I had with the Great River Shakespeare Festival. That's actually a Shakespeare festival that's in my hometown of Winona, Minnesota. And I, as part of that internship, worked on the production of Rosencrantz and Guildenstern Are Dead as the dramaturg. So I was there, again, taking on that role that I just described, working with the director, giving notes, and then also there's often an audience outreach component of dramaturgy too. So another thing I did with that production was develop a pre-play speech that I gave to audience members who were coming in to let them know all the things they needed to know before going into the production to see the play.
Yeah, okay, thank you. I didn't know that was a proponent of dramaturgy. Usually we just kind of plan out a short little script, I guess, for someone to recite when everyone walks in.
Right, yeah.
Like, they don't really like explain the play in of itself and kind of get everyone accustomed to it. So that's very interesting.
Yeah,
I
that's
like
often what a dramaturg can do if they're working with a theater company, or there are dramaturgs with dance companies or opera companies. So if there's an in-house dramaturg with a company, often they'll be there to either run post-show talks or pre-show talks for the audience too.
Okay, well, the more you know. Okay, from what I've seen from your photos and your website, it seems like you're a multi-talented person. We've already established that you're a dramaturg, but haven't you also acted in plays as well?
Yes, I have. So as I mentioned, that was something I liked doing from a young age, and I've also been lucky enough to keep finding roles occasionally.
Yeah, and you mentioned dancing and music, but haven't you also played the cello and composed some music as well?
I have, yeah. While I was in grad school, people found out that I played the cello, and suddenly I was very popular, and I got asked to play in a lot of shows, because the cello is a pretty versatile instrument, and everybody seems to like it. So I played in a number of different productions, and then on one show, I agreed to be the musician for a production of In the Small Room at the Top of the Stairs by Carol Frechette, and the director then informed me that she would actually like me to compose the entire score for the play, and so I said, okay, I guess I can figure out how to do that, and so for that production I was the composer, as well.
What was like your initial reaction? Were you like, oh, okay, sure?
Yeah, that was about my reaction. I'm definitely not very experienced at composition. I did take music classes and music theory in college, but when she informed me that she was hoping there would be music playing under most of the show for an hour-long show, that was more music than I had ever been asked to write before. But then it ended up being a really great experience and a lot of fun. So
that's crazy, but it's really cool that you got to kind of do that experience and do it successfully, I hope. Was it successful?
It was successful. And it taught me a lot too about, one of the things I really admired about that director that I was working with, she was a classmate of mine at the drama school, was that she would trust her collaborators a lot. Like, she trusted me to compose the score for the music, right? But what I learned from that was that if you trust the people around you and ask a lot of them, that often they will step up. So I think that was a good lesson from the show as well.
Yeah. Okay. And now you are in Indiana with us. So what made you decide to become a professor? And more importantly, what made you decide to come here to become a professor?
Yes, well, I have always wanted to teach. That was something, again, that I was pretty sure about early on. And so when I went to grad school, I went to grad school with the thought in mind that I would continue on in hopes of becoming a professor to do my doctorate degree. So I think the fun thing about being a theater professor, as I mentioned already, is that you both get to teach and then also continue to work on productions and creative capacities as well, and mentor students in those roles too. So that was something that appealed to me about this position at Hanover. I think in a smaller school, you get the opportunity to do a lot of different things, which appeals to me. And then I also just was hoping to end up at a liberal arts college, and that's what Hanover is.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Okay. So it didn't have anything to do with like the proximity to like home. Were you looking for any like colleges in Minnesota specifically?
I was applying pretty much nationwide. That's often something you do on an academic job search. So I was hoping that I would end up actually somewhere closer to home. I like the Midwest. I grew up in the Midwest.
Yeah. Represent.
So that was a plus. Yeah. I don't think there were actually any jobs open in Minnesota when I was doing my job search. So yeah.
Well, I guess we got lucky.
Yeah.
So you have had a month of class now, pretty much, right? Just about.
Yeah,
okay. And you've gotten to know some of the students. So how have your first experiences been with them?
They've been great. Yeah, I've been really impressed with the students here. I think there's great opportunity to really get to know the students, which is what I was hoping for with a liberal arts school. And I think a lot of curiosity and a lot of enthusiasm too. I'm so impressed by all of the activities that you all do here. Yeah.
There's a lot. Okay, and before we conclude, you are getting started on your first Hanover play, which will be at the other place down near Donner and Ide. So you're directing 3 short plays by Samuel Becket, correct?
That's correct.
Okay, and it starts at the end of October. Could you give the audience a brief rundown of why you chose these 3 plays in particular to direct for your first semester?
Yes, absolutely. These 3 plays by Samuel Becket are all part of a group of plays that he wrote mostly later on in his life and career. And in these plays, he's really distilling his ideas about theater into these short little gems of plays. And I think the opportunity to work with students on these particular short plays is it's going to be a lot of fun to dive into some really weird things, probably for a lot of the students in the cast and also the people in the audience. But I think the joy of these plays is the more you dig, the more you find in Becket.
Yeah, and well, I don't really know how I personally feel about Becket. I started my education here at Hanover not really liking Becket at all, but when I read through like Catastrophe and I kind of looked through the other plays that we're going through, I am in Catastrophe, full disclosure. I've been cast in the play, so I had to read through it. I'm still going to read through it again. And what I kind of found, especially with these 3 plays, is that you don't, on the surface it seems very bizarre. And as you kind of like read into it, or you read into it a couple of times, you kind of see that there is actually a message underneath, which I guess my qualm with Becket and I guess Brecht in that kind of sense is it seems like the message gets lost sometimes in the abstract. I don't think it's the case for these plays, which I really like. Am I kind of way off on that, or what do you think?
No, I think you're right. I think with these plays, you know, Becket was very resistant to any kind of interpretation of his plays a lot of the time, right? According to Becket, what you see is what you get. But I think then the joy of that is it allows the cast members like yourself and the audience to take what they want from that, and then you realize that there actually is a logic behind it too. There is a message you can find if you're looking for it. Definitely. Yeah.
And I think these 3 plays kind of exemplify that in a way. So thank you once again for being here, Jenny, and I look forward to working with you.
Thanks. I'm looking forward to it too.
Thank you for watching. Once again, Samuel Becket's 3 short plays will be shown at the other place at Hanover on November 22nd, 23rd, and 24th. This has been In the Studio. My name's Katy Dudzik, and thank you for watching.